Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Gold Dizzy. I want to talk a little bit about a book I just finished reading. Actually, I finished it about probably a week or two ago. Anyways, it's Bret the Hitman Hart's book entitled Hitman, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling. I have to say that it was an awesome book from cover to cover. I've only read a handful of wrestling biographies, but every one that I've read has been pretty stellar. This one's definitely no exception. I start reading it, and before I knew it, I'd have 10 or 13 chapters read in no time. It was really awesome, to read the book and find out a lot of things that I didn't know about him, good and bad, that is. When you first open the book, you're captivated by this collage of cartoon wrestlers drawn by Bret the Hitman Hart himself. I'll give you a little close-up view of it. Like I said, these are all drawn by Bret Hart. I didn't know that he was a cartoonist, but yeah, when I found that out, I thought that was pretty damn awesome because I draw cartoons myself. Funny thing about all these cartoons is that when he would be in the locker room, at a match, he would draw or doodle these cartoons on a chalkboard or marker board or whatever he had available, and he would just draw the wrestlers, whoever, someone might have got ribbed that day or whatnot, and he would immortalize it on a drawing, and every wrestler got a big kick out of it, even the ones who he was poking fun at the time. But the beginning of the book, the first 150 pages to be exact, tells you all about his upbringing, his introduction into wrestling, his early days, his first match, etc. We all know that he wrestled in Calgary, Stampede Wrestling, which was owned and ran by his father, Stu Hart. He had a really good time doing that. I think he enjoyed his earlier days of wrestling more than he did his WWF, WCW days. You really got to learn a lot about territories, in the old days. Pretty much all the territories were family run and operated. And the Calgary Stampede Wrestling was the epitome of a family ran operation. I think everybody in the Hart family played some kind of role in that organization. They had their own rings. They would haul all their equipment from venue to venue, set up everything themselves, with the hope of maybe getting 100 people to show up, if that. But regardless, if they had 10 people in the crowd or 1,000, they gave it their heart every time. No pun intended. But yeah. Like I said, the first 150 pages was all introduction to his life and his beginning stages of wrestling. Then you finally get to hear about his WWF days. Yeah, he wasn't really liked, I think, by Vince McMahon in his early days. Although he was an excellent wrestler, Vince just didn't really know what to do with him, I don't think. But he eventually got to team up with Jim Neville Neidhart. Of course, they became the Hart Foundation. Jimmy Hart was the manager. And they got their first tag team title. You then later read about when he got to become a single wrestler. He got the IC belt. Then, of course, we all know he eventually became the World Heavyweight Champion. Bret Hart is definitely probably one of the, well, not probably, he is the best technical wrestler out there. He just had a way of feeling out the match, being able to work easily with anybody he was in the ring with. He just had a natural knack for the business. Of course, there are bad things you find out about Bret Hart. Like, for instance, when he was on the road, he cheated on his wife all the time. He has a lot of stories in here about him committing adultery. More than one, more than two, more than 10 occasions. He really got lonely, as he put it in the book. So, on the road, he would feel lonely, and he would suppress that loneliness by hooking up with some random girl that he met at the bar. And that's another cool thing. He would also talk about how all the wrestlers, would meet up at these certain bars. They would all meet up and, hang out together. So, yeah, that's cool that, they had that camaraderie back then. He talked a lot about drugs, and alcohol use. They had their own special doctor, or crooked doctor, I should say, that the WWE had. And he would come in and sell the wrestlers whatever they wanted. Their steroids, pills, muscle relaxers, pain pills, everything. And at first, Bret Hart was totally against that kind of thing. But, as a professional wrestler, you eventually get injured. And he did his best to, not give in to temptation and take pills. But eventually he did. And then he started taking steroids as well. He never got crazy with it. But he does talk about how Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Davey Boy Smith and all those guys, had a really bad addiction. So another cool thing about the book, is that it's really thick. This is the thickest book I think I've read as far as wrestling biographies go. There's about 550 pages in it, and the print is really small. So it's just 550 pages, but there's a lot of words on each page. Most wrestling books have one section for pictures, usually located in the middle of the book. But this one has two sections. It's really cool because the first section shows all of early day pictures, when he was really young, starting out in wrestling and whatnot. Then you go to the second set of pictures, and it has all the older pictures, him and his late WWF days and his WCW days. But, another cool thing is I noticed in the back, there's like that cartoon illustration I showed you at the beginning of the video. He's got the black and white version, but he's got a legend on the bottom, so that way you can see what wrestler's what. I thought that was pretty cool that he put that in there, so that way you could see who's who, But, he even talks about, of course, Montreal Screwjob. And it's really cool, we all know about the Montreal Screwjob, but it's really cool to get to read it in his own words. I think that was the coolest thing, for the most part. But, another cool thing is he talked about Owen Hart, dying. We all know about Owen Hart dying. It's a sad day in wrestling history, 1999, Over the Edge pay-per-view. But, so the way he found out, I thought was terrible. He was on a plane going somewhere, I can't remember. But he got the call while he was on the plane in the air, I'm sure he felt really helpless, being stuck in an airplane, not being able to go to, his family and try to, console them as much as possible. And of course, that was his younger brother. He was the closest to Owen Hart, I think, than out of any of the Hart brothers and sisters. It was just really terrible, for him to be in that situation. But, anyways, you find out a lot about the family. His sisters, his sisters didn't really like him that much, with the exception of Davey Boy's wife. I think Davey Boy's wife, I don't remember her name, but I think they got along pretty well. But everybody else, nah, not at all. They always were bickering back and forth about one thing or another. But overall, I have to say that this book is pretty damn awesome. Probably the best one I've read so far, with the exception of The Lion's Tale, which is Chris Jericho's book. That was a good book as well, but that's another video. Anyways, if I had to rate this book on a star scale, I would give it 4 3/4 stars, no doubt whatsoever. It's absolutely worth every penny I spent on it, and I paid about $30 for it. But anyways, it was definitely worth every bit of it. It's a really cool book. Any wrestling fan, would definitely appreciate it. The older generation would definitely appreciate it. Even the new guys who aren't familiar with the old days of the WWF, you get this book and you read about it, and you definitely can find out a lot about how it was back in the 80s. But with that being said, like I said, I'm going to recommend it to anybody. A great read. Bret Hart, he is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. I keep hearing rumors about him maybe coming back to wrestling. Not to wrestle, but to maybe have some kind of role whether it be just to host Raw or maybe do some kind of angle with the Hart Dynasty. I think that would be awesome. You know, if he could come back and maybe be a manager to the Hart Dynasty. The Hart Dynasty, for anybody who doesn't know, consists of Tyson Kidd, who Bret Hart trained. I don't know if that's true, but that's why I put it in quotes. Also, Davey Boy Smith's son, D.H. Smith, and Jimmy Evil Neidhart's daughter. They are the new Hart Foundation, so to speak. But they've got a lot of talent. And it would be really awesome if Bret Hart could come back and maybe have some kind of role. Maybe not an ongoing role, but just come back and show the fans that he doesn't have any more resentment towards the WWF. Or towards Vince McMahon, I should say. But with that, I want to close. Like I said, get the book, read it, enjoy it. It's awesome. And you guys have a good one. Peace out.